Welcome to Internet Insanity.
Hello, welcome to Internet Insanity, the podcast that deals with the frustrations of using social media and the internet as an artist. My name is Ezra, and I'm one of the co-hosts.
I'm David, the other co-host. Attention equals time equals money.
At first, when you said that to me off air, I was really confused. So maybe some other people will be confused also.
Yeah, I was thinking that the internet, it's designed to take your attention, which ends up taking up your time, and then eventually ends up taking your money. I also was going to use attention equals time equals health, about how it takes your health away. Because I think, I've heard people say attention is like the most important resource we have in our lives. Like what you put your attention on is what you end up interacting with. And that's proponents of meditation have used that phrase. And the other thing is that once you get sucked in, it can take up your time.
Yeah.
Which is like really valuable.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's one of those things where like I don't know how valuable it is in the moment when I'm like scrolling or on my computer for a long time doing nothing really productive or nothing that is giving me anything back really, other than taking my time, which isn't giving me anything. It's giving me distraction, I guess.
Mm.
But then in hindsight, I'm like, oh my God, my attention is so valuable. Like looking back on that time, like on those hours that I was scrolling, I'm like, oh my God, I could have done this, this, and this. Or like I said I was going to do this, this, and this. And instead I didn't. And it's so interesting how I can disconnect. I can like keep that disconnection when I'm in it. Like when I'm in the vortex or whatever, like scrolling.
Yeah.
But then once I'm out of it, I'm like, oh my God, what was I doing? It's like waking up from a bender and being like, oh my God, I need to get my shit together.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, I need to get to bed. Oh, it's like, I'm not going to get enough sleep for the next day.
Yeah.
It's like I lost track of time.
Oh yeah. That's the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the worst. I wouldn't rank it as the top worst thing, but it's up there.
Yeah. Yeah. I related to the bender, what you were saying. Like that's just, it's no fun waking up or reflecting on that. And I don't know, when I was thinking about it, it was funny because part of me was just like, oh yeah, like people use social media, they really lose their attention and their time,
Yeah.
But then I thought about it for a little bit and I was like, well, I surfed the internet looking for books and like getting books that I didn't end up reading or building a collection. And I thought, and slowly but surely I'm learning more about this online interaction stuff. And one thing that I learned recently, which maybe seems obvious to most people but not to me, is that when you're surfing like websites and shopping, they're tracking the mouse, so they're tracking what you're looking at, and they're gaining information already on you, so that next time you log in, they have a better sense of how to keep your attention and your time and your money. And it's, it reminds me of when you see people being interrogated or like a focus group where there's like a mirror and there's people behind the mirror but you can't see them.
Yeah, definitely.
I think a lot of websites are like that.
For sure. I just thought about like how many times I've hovered my mouse over something and not clicked it.
Yeah.
Or like how many times I put something in my shopping cart and then I X out of the page right before I purchase it. Because I'm like, oh my God, I don't actually need that. I but then they'll send me like an email or like even a text that's like, hey, we noticed that you put something in your shopping cart and you left. What happened? Are you okay? Like, and it's like, you don't actually care about me. Like,
Yeah, I
yeah.
know, and it's like so. For me. I think, do I want to buy this? Uh, you know what? And it's already. I just have to click one more button, and then I've spent it, and I just go, no. You know what? I'm gonna. I don't need this right now. It's okay. I think I was just feeling a little lonely or something.
Yeah.
I'll exit out, and in my mind, it's just I have a clean conscience. I have like it was a clean sweep. But Amazon is just like, oh no, like we've been watching you. Like this isn't it. This isn't over. Like you can't get away that cleanly.
Yeah. There was this time during quarantine. It was actually like about a month ago. I was feeling like really stressed about my exercise routine since I wasn't able to go to the gym, and I was really used to running on a treadmill. And so I started having to run outside, but then running with a mask outside was starting to like bug me. And it wasn't that hard. Like I did it plenty of times, but then like it's just one more thing that's going to make me not want to go for my run is having to put the mask on. So I was kind of like, oh, whatever. I'm just going to like invest in a treadmill. That's how you like justify big purchases. You say it's an investment rather than just like buying it.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, I'm investing in this. Like this is going to mean something. This is going to be something really important. It's going to be worth my money.
I think I did that with like $700 worth of books for this podcast.
Yeah.
That wasn't an exaggeration.
It's an investment.
It's an investment. Well, I do think it's an investment.
Yeah. It
but
is.
Anyways.
But my treadmill probably wasn't. So then I put it in my cart like 3 or 4 times and then just kept clicking out of it. But Amazon kept reminding me that it was there. And then finally, I was just like, it was like 4 a.m. I was feeling fat and I was just like, fuck this. I'm going to fucking buy it. I haven't gone on a run. And like, because I was like thinking about buying the treadmill, I kept justifying not going on a run because I was like, well, I'm going to have this treadmill. So, it was all this crazy obsession.
Yeah.
And then finally at 4 a.m, I'm just like, fuck it. And I click the button and I'm like, oh my God. I had signed up for an Amazon credit card just to make this purchase, which is, the first red flag. Like, I don't have the money for this. And then it told me it was going to arrive a certain time. And then when they tried to deliver it, the elevator in my building is too small to fit the treadmill. So they called me and they were like, hey, like we can't deliver this because it's so heavy. We can't carry it up 5 flights of stairs. And I was like, oh, so what do we do? And he was like, well, we just take it back. And I was like, oh my God, the relief. The relief. Because I was like so stressed about where I was going to put it. I don't have a big place. There's just so many things that were going into this that was stressing me the fuck out. And then finally, like when it was in my building, they were like, actually, you can't have this treadmill. And I was like, thank God, like divine intervention.
That's so funny.
and then I got the refund and I was like, cancel the store credit card, like cancel all of it, cancel everything.
Yeah. I'm sure Amazon is listening and going to work on that. So next time you can't do that.
They're going to buy me a new elevator.
We've got these new robot drones that... yeah. And then I've read that corporations will buy a color, like they'll make it trademarked based on like evolutionary research, knowing that this might make you feel a certain way subliminally. So I'm sure Amazon's paid money to do that. Like, I wonder what that light green's about in the you know what I mean? In the app. Yeah,
it's blue, David.
I think mine's green.
What?
But
aren't you colorblind?
No, I'm not colorblind.
Oh, that's someone else.
Yeah, but anyways, whatever the color is, maybe it's blue for you because they know it'll work better on you.
Maybe, yeah.
So yeah, it's and like I totally like endorse. I think I heard Andrew Yang first talk about it, where and I think we've mentioned this. I guess that these companies should be paying us for our attention. If Facebook's making money off of what you're looking at and selling it to businesses so they can advertise for you, you're doing some work. And we've, I think it's based, I mean, I think the internet hit us all so fast that we all are just trying to catch up to something that's just, always outpacing us. But in this instance, I don't think anybody really thought of the consequences
Mm.
or that this was going to be a problem or that we would even take it, you know, for granted. I think it was just like, oh, cool. Like I can see pictures of my grandma
Yeah. Yeah,
on a weekly
definitely.
basis.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the attention thing, I feel like it's kind of a slippery slope to start compensating people for their attention on the internet, because then that's only going to fuel uh, the the addiction in a way, or the obsession. For me, at least, it would, because I'm like, oh, I know I'm being compensated. At least I'm being compensated for this. So then it's giving me something else, like when I was like in my active drug addiction, if the weed somehow was giving me something monetarily, uh, I don't know how. I feel like it would be a lot harder to quit it. But then also, I'm not interested in quitting the internet. I feel like internet or social media addiction is akin to food addiction.
Uh-huh.
Compulsive eating, because you have to eat. You have to, like, there's no getting around it. So, in a program for food addiction, it's not about stopping eating. You can't be abstinent from food. Just like, I mean, for me at least, I can't be abstinent from the internet. I just can't. I know I can't. I don't want to, um and for my life, for my business, for everything, like, I need to use it somehow. But what I'm interested in is learning how to bring a sense of serenity into it, a sense of being in my body while I'm using it, and not disassociating while I'm sitting there scrolling, or being completely aware of, okay, I'm going to use this 30-minute window as my aimlessly scrolling time, as opposed to just being like, having like an endless, whatever.
Yeah,
Endless adventure.
I think that's cool. Being able to be in your body while you're doing this type of stuff, and the internet's not going to go away, and people use it all the time for their businesses and um, connections now. So, and I think it would be hard actually for these companies to make it less addictive, because I think there's probably you're juggling whether to make it really easy to use or making it more difficult to use so that you don't want to keep using it.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's really easy to use, you'll keep using it and you'll keep using it. So I guess we don't need to always blame the poor corporations. I think that's what I tend to do, is just always blame them. But
The poor corporations.
poor corporations,
Yeah.
so misunderstood, gentle organizations.
Gentle, wholesome corporations.
Yeah.
All they have is our best interest.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Oh, I've seen the commercials since the coronavirus. They've just totally letting me know that they're there for me.
Yeah, that we're in this
That
together.
we're in this together, and that if I need to buy a new treadmill, I can buy it on this new credit card, because they know it's been hard.
I
Getting my run
swore,
on.
this is good. Like, this is interesting. I mean, I swore that I would not tell a single soul that I bought a treadmill when I bought it.
That's addictive thinking.
I
That's
know.
so addictive.
I was like, okay, this is gonna be my secret. I'm gonna clean out because I do have a pretty big storage closet in my studio.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking I'm gonna it was like a fold up kind that you
Mhm.
roll. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna fold it up every time someone comes over. Maybe I'll tell David. Maybe because he comes over
That's
for the
cool.
podcast. But anyone else, no one's gonna know. No one's gonna know. I'm never gonna post about it. Like,
That's so funny.
there was so much shame.
Yeah.
The relief that I got when those delivery men said, we can't give this to you.
Amazon did for you what you couldn't do for yourself.
It's just this shitty building that I live in that has a tiny elevator. The elevator, every time I get in the elevator with someone, they go, wow, this is tight.
Yeah.
This is tight. All right, we have to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have one of my favorite human beings on, Six. She's a drag queen, a makeup artist. She was just a makeup artist on the HBO series We Are Here, which is now Emmy nominated, which is like that's a big deal. I'm really excited to have her on. So when we come back, we're going to have Six here. Hey, are you there?
I'm here.
We're here. Okay.
It's so funny. Every time they say that on that show, I'm backstage or like behind the scenes, and I'm like, it's like in my throat. I don't actually get a chance to like say it.
Yeah.
So it's always fun when you say it, and I'm like, woo.
So I feel like this is usually we do like a whole little intro thing where we're like, all right, now we're back and we're gonna have Six on, but I just want to keep that part because I thought it was very cute. So that's gonna be the intro.
I love it.
So tell me who you are, please, so the listeners can know a better description of who you are.
Who am I? It would take me a second because I have to reflect on that for a second. I am no one until I have to think about it, you know?
Mm.
Because it's just whatever I am today. I am, well, my name is Jeremy Austin, and I'm a makeup artist and a drag queen and a recovering addict. And I don't know. Oh, I'm a good friend.
You are an excellent friend. This queen has texted me and FaceTimed me the entire time I've been recovering from my hysterectomy surgery, like every day. Every day.
Well, I love you, and I
Well,
care about your well-being.
I love you too, a lot.
I know.
Good. I'm glad you know.
Well, I
Because
mean,
there was a time in my life where I loved people and they had no idea.
well, your actions show your love for someone.
Yeah.
Words are very irrelevant. I think that your actions show, and you show me all the time how much you care for me. So I feel it.
Oh, I'm so glad. That makes me happy. So we've been talking a little bit. I don't know how much you heard while you were so rudely muted by me.
Well, I was listening to it while I was brushing my teeth, and I heard something about the internet and the things that you keep in your cart online.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. We talked a little bit about that. Yeah. Do you have any experience with putting stuff in your cart and leaving it there and then Xing out?
Oh yeah, 100%. I don't trust it.
You know what?
I don't trust it.
Yeah.
For me, I don't trust that anything that I purchase online is going to actually show up to my house.
Whoa. Is that from personal experience?
I think I think it comes from not trusting. I trust people when I can see them in a face-to-face conversation. Because it's all about a feeling or um, a look. I like to look people into their eyes, and when I send somebody money, it's a transaction, and I feel like it's a personal one because it affects you personally. And for me, I'm one of those people, like I trust a transaction when I can look the person who's the seller in the eye. Um, and when I can't do that online, I have to sit and ponder it. Sometimes it takes me a lot to really sit and think about how badly do I want something in order to just trust right away buying something from someone I've never met.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I
Why?
I don't
Because
I
it
don't
sounds crazy to me.
it sounds, well, I mean, okay, it makes sense now that you've explained it, but I don't necessarily relate to that because I think it might just be a, I mean, I hate to say this, but it might just be a generational thing
Yeah, I
where
mean,
like
could
the
possibly
internet just, what's that?
it could possibly be.
Yeah, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I grew up buying things online like for most of my teenhood and adulthood, so there's a chance that could, I don't know, have affected it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I just bought my first computer like 2 weeks ago, and that was a really big practice in trust and believing that when I put the money down, it was going to actually arrive to my home. I bought it from Best Buy, and I had to do it online because the store did not have it, and they said that it would be delivered the same day. And I had to trust that putting $3,000 into a piece of equipment and not, that was, I literally was white knuckling it.
Oh my god.
I was like, "No, you're sure?" And as soon as it went through, I had to call the store and make sure that they had gotten the order and that it actually was coming. I had to talk to my sponsor about whether or not that money could be put back in my account if the transaction didn't go through or if it didn't show up that day. That was a stressful experience.
Oh babe, I'm sorry, but I'm so proud of you for having a getting a computer. That's a big deal.
I mean, but I do think you're right. I think that it is a generational thing. I mean, I have 20 years on you. And when computers were just coming out, I mean, I think our first computer lab was installed in my high school the year after I graduated.
Oh shit.
Yeah. We
Wow.
didn't have computer labs. They were just being invented.
I'm curious what it was like when you first saw the internet and like.
My God, I feel like such a it sounds like such a history lesson. I mean, honestly, when I first saw the internet, the big thing was Yahoo.
Mhm.
It was like major, like it was on every commercial, it was everywhere. I had a Yahoo. I still have my Yahoo, Mr. Makeup at Yahoo.
Oh my
And
god. That's
yeah,
great.
um, and I just remember feeling like it hadn't really met its full potential. And so my big thing back then was eBay. And
Mm.
maybe this, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe this does have something to do with an eBay purchase. I can't remember specifically, but I'm pretty sure now that I'm thinking about it, eBay was where I was scarred by paying money for something and not receiving it.
Oh shit.
Mm.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
probably didn't have as many protections when they first started out.
Oh, 100%. Well, we didn't have laptops. A computer that you could just travel out the door with was unheard of. So they were these big, huge boxes with these big I mean, it was just a lot of boxes. Computers took up a lot of space in your house. So it was a commitment. You had to have like a specific room that this thing went in. Um, and yeah, it wasn't as accessible, and it wasn't something that I think the fear of going online back then was like you had to have a course or you had to take a class in order to figure out the keyboard, and you had to learn how it all worked. So I think that that was a little intimidating. But I mean, as you see today, I am thriving on the internet.
You really are. You really are. If the listeners want to follow Six, um, your handle's what? It's call her Six. Is that what it
It,
is?
yep, call her, and then it's just six, the number, not spelled out. Call her six.
Call her Six, and you will not be disappointed. Um,
I really appreciate that. I mean, you know what? It's crazy to be. I'm about ready to turn another year sober, and I'm turning 44 in October, and to be thriving again is something that I never thought was going to be possible. So I'm excited.
yeah.
That's great. Um, it it's funny. I read this yesterday, but I didn't think I was going to bring it up. But they called something. It was like it's Generation D, and it was saying how kids who grow up with computers have access to more information than their parents did. So it's like the first time in human history that children have more information available to themselves than adults.
Whoa, that's so trippy.
Yeah,
That's super trippy.
yeah.
But I think that don't you think that that's every single generation? There's always been some kind of modernization as far as education is concerned. And it's why parents are so afraid to have to teach their children at home. I mean, especially in the current situation, I think the biggest fear about having to educate your kids or monitor your kids' educational progress has some major fear around the fact that you know your kids know more than you do.
Yeah. And in this situation, they might know how to navigate the text or, um, I mean, the parent could be like, oh, let me teach you about like American history. And then when they're gone, the kid can like Google America's history and just have way more to look through.
Honey,
Um,
30-minute fast forward cliff notes on America.
Oh my God. I remember one time when I was going to bed, my dad, well, like not one time, but like in a time in my life, my dad consistently was teaching me about world history every night. Like he used to tell me stories, and then like during, like, I don't know, somewhere in that chapter where he would tell me stories before bed, he started telling me world history, and it was super fascinating, but it was in one ear and out the other. Like it was so, and I mean, I don't know. Now I know that it's accessible on the internet, but
yeah, it was in a chapter about internet addiction too. So I think part of it was that the these like kids who grow up with the internet can they know that it's a more it might they might view it as a more trusted source than their
oof,
parents.
I think that's what it was. Maybe I just didn't trust that he knew what he was talking about fully.
Yeah,
And I was already kind of jaded by the internet and like having so much information
yeah,
accessible that I was kind of like, yeah, Dad, all right, I'll read about this later, and then I never did.
But
yeah.
I wonder if that has something to do with the fact that as a child, you grow up um, examining your parents or your parental figures at a really high level. So you
Hmm.
see them do something, and then they tell you not to do it. So all of a sudden, you start um, accessing this place of like not trusting what they say to be true.
Mm, yeah, that's for sure. Um,
I don't know.
I was
My first history lesson with my dad, when I met my dad, my first history lesson with him was the Nostradamus effect.
What
Um,
is that?
it's basically this very ancient. I mean, this man Nostradamus was this fortune teller or future seer, and he could tell you about um, the future of the world and the future state of the world. And it was this like just apocalypse of what the earth was going to turn into. And I think it was like 10 or 11 when this happened. So I just became extremely fascinated with um, uh, paying attention to the signs of like when the world was going to end. That was like my introduction to history.
Whoa.
Was
That
like,
sounds terrifying.
well, I mean, life was terrifying.
That's real.
My
That's
dad was
real.
terrifying.
Was he?
But yeah, I think the internet gives kids now an opportunity to be seen, and I think that's a very human thing, to want to be seen and to be heard. And I think that's why on the internet everybody has an opinion about everything, is because it gives you an opportunity and a place to to be seen and to be heard.
Wow. I never thought about it like that, but I definitely agree with you.
Well, I'm not saying it's the healthiest thing.
No, but it's like it is quite the explanation. I mean, I don't know. I definitely relate to that, especially when I was a kid. I dealt with a lot of loneliness, and once I had access to the internet, it was just like so obviously a solution for me, um, to be seen and heard. You know, I
Do you
mean, I
find
was.
that it's still a solution?
What's that?
Do you find that it's still a solution for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think it works. It's a viable solution at times to be seen and heard and to feel less alone, you know? I
Do you think
mean,
that it's always healthy?
uh, no, I don't. Do you?
No, I actually think I think it's more destructive and um I don't know. I am more fearful of the internet now than I ever have
Why is that?
been. I don't know. I think cancel culture is a huge source of my fears. Um, I think that when you've lived 44 years on this earth, you've done a lot of things in your life that you're not necessarily proud of, but you think aren't necessarily that big of a deal. But it's coming from my perspective. I think it
Hmm.
comes from the process of doing an amends, and you make the list, and you make the list as thoroughly as you possibly can. And there's always something that creeps back up, and it's a reminder of just how human you are, um, and at times reactive. And prior to the internet, I can't imagine. I mean, I don't think I've ever done anything in my life that has ever harmed somebody to the point that it would still have an effect on them. But in today's culture where everything can happen in a moment's notice, and when people want to put you on blast for something instead of having a direct communication with you, I've always been one who, if I have a problem with one person or something, I like to take it directly to the source,
Hmm.
instead of being one of those people that just, talks about it with everyone, before giving that person an opportunity to correct themselves or to correct the situation. Um, and so I think that in today's society, with we're all sitting in front of a computer, we're all sitting in front of our phones. Our phones are literal mini computers, and so you have access to everything at all times. And I think the thing that scares me the most is just witnessing the annihilation
Mm.
of people who are just trying to do the best that they can in this very moment. I think for me, if I were to be still, um, help me out here. I think that if I were still to be reduced to the person that I was 3 years ago, well, I would still be homeless, and I would still be an addict. I would still be all of these things that are considered very negative things, and I wouldn't be able to be contributing to even what we're doing now.
Mm.
So I think that if I'm held to that standard for the rest of my life, then I'm not going to be allowed to have the full experience of being a human being. And I think that everybody should be entitled and should be allowed the opportunity to have the full experience of being a human being, and that is to love and lose and live and die. You know, I think that you should be able to have every experience and within all of those spectrums completely. And when you cancel somebody, you are prohibiting them from having the full experience.
Wow.
I think that's beautifully said.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
I wish better for mankind than what I've witnessed in recent weeks and in recent months. I think that for me, I want to, of course, address Black Lives Matter and the movement that is Black Lives Matter. I think that witnessing that happening in the palm of my hands and feeling like there was nothing I could do about it, and then also feeling like it was something that I had witnessed and um, either directly or indirectly had taken part in. Um, and I'm not saying directly as in I have been a racist person, but if racism is systemic, then that means my entire life I have been taught to think of certain races a certain way. Whether it was something I believed in or didn't believe in, I have taken part in it
Mhm.
by witnessing things and not saying something, or seeing something happen and not doing anything to prevent it from happening. Um, I think that we are all affected by systemic racism, and watching it happen in the palm of my hands and feeling helpless, like there was nothing I could do. I could retweet or I could repost something, but feeling like I didn't have a voice in the conversation felt stifling. I'm not saying that it's my conversation to have, but as somebody that wants to be a part of progressing and moving the movement forward and educating not only myself but other people around me, I felt I felt like I didn't have an opportunity to get involved. So
Yeah.
I went to the marches. I did all of the things that I thought were appropriate for me to do, but it was tough seeing my brothers and sisters suffer and go through the pain very visibly and not being able to do anything but to say, you know, maybe send a text and say, I love you, or repost something that they posted, or, so yeah, I feel like there was a lot of fear in in the most recent of weeks and days um, around the internet.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I definitely relate to the feeling of like wanting to be a part of the movement and not really seeing uh, it feels like such a it is a life or death situation, the Black Lives Matter movement, and the progression of the movement um, means that there's literal lives that could be saved from this movement progressing.
Hmm.
And to just tap my finger on a screen and hit repost seems like
It seems
so
like insensitive.
insignificant. It
Yeah,
seems kind of pathetic,
yeah. I
to be
mean,
honest.
that's the thing, is that you feel like you want so badly to be a part of it, and yet you've got to, as a white person, as a white representing person, as a man. I feel like because I'm white, I feel like because I'm a man, I have had many opportunities that haven't been available to someone who isn't a man or isn't white. Um, that almost feel responsible for the doings of the past generations, and I want to be a part of. I mean, I think the main thing here is that making yourself be part of it means that the progression of it relies on you making a decision, a conscious decision every single day to be aware that it is something that is, to be aware of it, and to be aware that you can step in at any moment in time and make something different in any situation that you're presented with.
Yeah, I think um, hearing all this and thinking about the internet and how we're using it, um, I've often said that it's just messy because it's so new. And part of me is just thinking, like, there is the cancel culture that can be unhealthy at times, and it can bring out the worst out of people. And then you have like the Black Lives Matter movement, which is bringing out the best in some people.
Mm.
And even before this technology, I think you couldn't like retweet something and maybe show, at least in my case, like my family and friends, a perspective that they probably haven't considered, and that, or considered me even having. And I can say something like, yeah, I like the Black Lives Matter movement, um, and what they're doing. So it's messy, but I just to reiterate, I think that it's kind of, it's good and bad, at times.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
yeah. I mean, the internet is it is the yin and yang of the universe, all rolled into one electronic device. I think that as far as any movement is concerned, I mean, right now, our trans brothers and sisters are being beaten in the street, and I'm witnessing it happen online, and I'm 2,000 miles away, and there's nothing I can do about it except be witness to it, draw attention to it, make my stance on how I disagree with any no human being should have to fight to exist.
Mhm.
That's just the way that I feel. No human being should ever have to fight to exist. And to see what went down um, with these women on the streets of Hollywood was it, it was
It
so
was.
it made me sick.
It made me sick too.
It made
I had
me
such a hard
sick.
time watching that.
Yeah, it made me sick the way that the Black Lives Matter movement um, made me physically ill,
Yeah.
um, because it made me realize that I am so much a part of this community and of the human race, and yet I am so significantly uneducated in the ways of other lifestyles. And it
Mm.
just made me more ambitious to want to learn more. I'm usually somebody that doesn't want to speak on something until I know full force what I'm speaking about. And I always say this to my friends who are trans. I say, please educate me because I want to know. And I'm going to ask you questions that may be offensive in the moment, but I want to know why they're offensive. I want to know how I can speak better on behalf of something that I am not personally experiencing.
I really appreciate that you said that. I think that right there is so crucial when you have a trans friend to upfront and say upfront, I'm going to ask you questions that might be offensive, but I want to know why they're offensive. I think that is kind of how me and David started communicating in the beginning when we first were becoming friends. We would talk in the parking lot of like a Denny's after fellowship, after a meeting, and we would just stand there and talk for like, ever. And he would ask me, I mean, we would just talk about everything, but there were times where he asked me questions about identity, gender identity, and gender stuff in general. And it was like there was this overarching feeling of respect and compassion that I felt from him. And so if even if he did ask something that normally would kind of be a little jarring or whatever,
Hmm.
I felt completely safe being like, oh, let me like redirect you, or like let me like educate you on this thing or whatever. Um and he was super receptive to that. And so it was just like, oh, I'm being treated as like a human being with my own experience, and someone's trying to understand, rather than um, people feeling threatened by me literally just telling them what it's like to be trans. Because like I've had conversations with other people, other cisgender people, where they're like, I don't get that. And then I'm like, oh, let me explain it to you. And they're like, and then I explain it and they're like, no, I don't see it that way. And I'm like, well, I'm the trans one. Like, let me tell you, let me
You're
tell you
talking,
what it is literally like, you know?
yeah, you're talking from a perspective that could never understand what I'm going through,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
this doesn't have anything to do with you. And this
No.
brings it full circle back to what I'm speaking. This is what I mean when I say, um, I want to educate myself on this specific subject because I care about you as a person. Um, and it ties back into cancel culture. So many people, for me, I want desperately to know how it affects another person because I want to know how I can help to make their lives better and thus making my life better. Because if my friends and the people that I care about are happy and they feel safe, then I also in turn feel happy and I feel safe. And for me, I want my relationships with people to be long lasting and to be forever friendships. And it's because I love you that I want to understand how it affects you and how I can possibly maneuver through this differently so that I can show you. Again, it's about showing someone that you love them. I can't just hear you tell me I love you and never see um, any physical action of that love. So by me saying, hey, I want to know about this, I also want to know what it is about what I'm saying that is offensive, because I never want to offend you. And so when it comes to people speaking on behalf of things that they don't know on the internet, or talking about things that don't um, personally affect them, I think that we should start, for me, I would like to start having more direct conversations with people instead of just blasting things out on the internet and expecting people to deal with it. No one
Hmm.
should ever feel attacked and be forced to learn a lesson at the same time, because there will become a trauma behind this moment for them that will never heal. Or if it does heal, it will always be a reminder of that one time that they got attacked because they were trying to ask questions, or they were trying to learn, or they were trying to um, and I'm not saying this for everyone. There are people out there that are hateful, racist, misogynistic human beings, and you have to understand that that will always exist. It doesn't have to exist, but in my lifetime, I don't ever see people changing their views and their ways, as long as other people are being taught that this is how they should live. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and um, I just think that was very well put because um, I think that there is a tension for the more naive, um, curious type person like myself that um, I'm curious about what progressive ideas are being pushed and welcomed, and then there is this um, type of righteous critical like person who's just out to like critique everybody. And I don't think that I for me what's been fun about this podcast and also really unfun is seeing that I think that there's room for all of this, um, and I think for me, I've just had to be really comfortable counting my blessings, and that's how I feel about Ezra when I did ask those questions because I thought if I'm, I know I was being, I know I'm a caring person and a respectful person, and I did come from that place. Um, but I've often kind of thought like, what if Ezra was like, what the fuck? Like really, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I just kind of wonder how I would react because actually, when I was also asking those questions, it was that there was quote like intelligent critiques of the left starting to come out, and I never considered those critiques. I was going, oh my god, is it tied to Marxism? Is it tied to like this crazy communist more relativist agenda? And because part of me was like, I don't know if I agree with all that, and I actually don't still, but um, it's just it's all of this is so confusing, and I've met people where in face to face they're kind of blunt, and I
Hmm.
kind of am like, oh, I gotta watch how I act around them. I think they're gonna kind of, I could see them chewing my head off, and then I go online and they're posting things about like this is what you shouldn't be doing. This is this, but at the same time, I, I just really liked how you're putting this stuff because I think there needs to be room for all of this because we're all human.
But see,
So,
that's just the thing is that you can't speak with someone like Ezra and see the physical evolution of a human being and not be open to learning how you can too evolve from someone who is so physically evolved right in front of our eyes.
Hmm.
Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
it does make sense, and I definitely can see that the perspective of seeing it as a burden placed on us because there is effort involved and there's energy expended in just existing, um, that may not be the same for a cis person. But
I also think that if in order for it to be a everyday thing, there has to be more communication and more talk, and the internet is filled with information on how to evolve and how to inform and educate yourself on
mhm,
certain things. I just want to encourage everybody to, if you don't know Black people, get a Black friend. If you don't know trans people, get a trans friend. If you don't know gay people, get a gay friend. Like,
just go to the store and get
and
a
get
friend.
one, honey. I mean, what the hell?
you
Um,
can order them online.
we're
Well, you
everywhere.
kind of can. You just go on Grinder, and they're there.
We're everywhere. But as much as I want for people to uh, get larger social circles and start educating them more about other human beings in this world, I really would love to see on the internet an opportunity for people to be more vulnerable and less attacked for their vulnerability.
That makes sense. Do you feel like you've ever experienced, like, I guess I know that you've experienced close friends, getting canceled or whatever.
Hmm.
Have you ever experienced anything online that has been unsavory or like not like dehumanizing or like you felt like you weren't able to really have your full human experience, as you said?
I mean, I can tell you that from my heart of hearts, like from deep down in who I am as a being, I know that there's no hateful intentions with anything I've ever done in my life. Did I ever use the N word while singing a song back in the day with this rap group or that rap group? Absolutely, I have. But I was never told that it was offensive. I was never told that it wasn't okay. And I grew up in a space and time where um, it was the norm.
Hmm.
You know, I also grew up when rap music was just being invented. So I saw rap music literally come in and start taking over the airwaves. I witnessed that happen. So I know that the N word is something that you don't do. I know that now that I know this, and I'm not saying now that I know it now, I've always known it. I think from growing up as a kid, I lived in a Black foster home, and I was really young when this happened, but I remember being at a park with my brothers and sisters, and they were all Black. We lived in a Black home, and we were at a park, and this white man started just yelling all of these obscenities towards us. And I say us because I did not know that there was a difference um, in the way the world saw my family. And my sisters started crying, these two girls. And I remember my sister looking at me, and I started crying because they were crying. And she said to me, "What are you crying about, white boy? He's not talking to you, he's talking to us." And that was the first time in my life where there was a line drawn. And all of a sudden, I started witnessing and realizing that there were differences. Up until that point, up until I was taught that there were differences, I had never really experienced it. And that's when I started realizing that there was definitely something that was larger than I was, that I didn't understand and I didn't necessarily agree with, but I knew that was the moment that there was a separation in an us and a them.
Wow.
And so that was a really powerful point in my life. I think I was maybe like 8 years old, but it was definitive for me, and it's been lifelong. I'll never forget that experience. I'll never forget that moment, and I'll never forget that. I mean, being the only white kid in a Black home, I then started realizing that I was different than everybody else. I think that was the and the defining moment at which point I started to discover my own self.
Wow. That's so fascinating. And I mean, I just really commend you for being able to own your past too, and to just like speak so freely about it. I always admire that about you. Um,
Well, but here's the thing. You asked me if I have ever been canceled. You asked me if I've ever experienced that kind of uh, intensity on the internet. I never have, but I'm going to say I never have yet. Um,
mhm.
I'm sure that, you know, I always have said this, even back when I was using, I always said this saying, which was 15 years in the bottom of a closet. And that was, you know, you want to run for governor? Well, guess what? 15 years from now, when you do want to run for governor, there's going to be somebody that has a piece of information that they've collected about you along the way that's going to come back to haunt you. And that is so frightening, to think that you can make a mistake and never recover from it, and never recover from it so much that it will affect your livelihood and your status and your placement in your own personal life for the rest of your life. You're basically saying to people, be careful of your ambitions, because your past may prohibit you from living a full and experienced life.
Yeah.
Now,
And
if you have something like that in your past and you do nothing to correct it, then there's the problem. You know,
Right.
I don't believe in people, you know, these pioneers of YouTube, these um, people that consistently do things that are insensitive and tone deaf to all ages, all races, all sexes, all ethnicities, all religious beliefs and backgrounds. I think that if you're going to be a public person and you want a public lifestyle, you should really start to take into account the way that you interact on a um, consistent basis with people on the internet. But I think that I think I think that it's okay to be vulnerable. And I think that it's okay to say, I don't know a lot about it. I'd like to, because, you know, I have this one of my little gay nephews in my gay family. His name is Jojo, and he wanted to be a dancer, and the dance communities and the people that he associated himself with always said, "You'll never be a dancer. You don't know anything about dance." And now he's one of the most prominent twerking people out there, and
Twerking people. Is that what the official title is?
I don't know if that's necessarily the official title, but that's my description of it. But he used to say, "Well, twerking's not dancing," and I used to say, "Are you moving your body?" Because if you're moving your body, you're dancing. They used to say voguing wasn't a dance either, and now voguing is an art form of dance. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that twerking also is an art form of dance. And so one day we were having this conversation. He said to me, he said, Tia, he said, you brought something up to me the other day that really made me think. And he said, you said that I was a dancer, and now I really believe that I'm a dancer. And I think that that's the thing. You have to be vulnerable and able to say, "Hey, I don't know about this. I really want to do it. It's something that I have a passion for, and it's drawing me to it." Sometimes those people that are vulnerable and don't know anything about something become the most powerful people in the movement of whatever it was they didn't know anything about. So I would encourage people to continue to be vulnerable, continue to ask questions, continue to inform yourself, and become one of the most powerful voices in a movement because you were vulnerable.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I want to go back really quick
Yeah,
to
of
the
course.
whole cancel
I
culture thing.
feel like I've dragged this all over the
No,
place.
no, no.
Mm-mm.
It was so good. Everything that you've been saying has just been like super profound. It's almost like I feel a little bit speechless.
And it's been like on the, it's kind of on the tip of people's tongues, whenever you talk about the internet. So
Yeah.
you're
Well, I'm sure I'll get canceled for
And I'm sure you'll get canceled, but speaking of that, I want to just say that like what I've been thinking about this a lot because I really do believe in giving people grace and compassion, and everyone deserves it. I think even if they're the most, if they've acted in a really horrible way, I still believe that people deserve compassion and grace. And with regards to the whole cancel culture, I think that what I expect, or what I would like from people who have a past that they're not proud of and haven't addressed it, and it's come up somehow out of the woodwork, is to just witness a proper amends, which means, and I know we were talking about this the other day, Six,
it. Yeah.
but and I know that a lot of people don't have a concept of a true
What
amends.
the amends process is.
But it's like what I expect from people if they're really trying to make something right is
Mhm.
to own what they did, say I did that thing
Yep.
that was not okay, and not to give an explanation of why they did it. I don't care. They did it. That's all I
Right.
need. Just say that you did the thing, then say it was not okay and this is why, so that you can show that you've actually learned something, and then vow to not do it again, and then ask, what can I do to make this right? Because without that last part of what can I do to make this right, you're basically deciding what is making the thing right for the people who were hurt. You're saying this is enough. I've done my part. I've owned the thing. So now I don't need to do anything else. What more do you want from me? That, and like it's like when once they ask like what more do you want from me? It's like, actually we have an answer for you. Do you really want to know? But
Mhm.
I usually think that that's more of a rhetorical question rather than a genuine desire to know how to make it right. They're like, what more do you want from me? I did all this stuff. And it's like,
Right.
well,
But this
stop
is
being
what
hysterical and let me tell you what I need from you, you know?
this is where the hysteria comes from, and I've witnessed it for firsthand with people that I truly do care about. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I think that there's a responsibility on the person who has done the harm to not only apologize it, but to make amends for it properly. Um, I also think that if you don't know how to properly make an amends, you should find out from people who have made amends and learn. Once
Mm-hmm.
again, you have to be vulnerable. I am vulnerable right now. I have made a mistake. I don't know how to make up for this,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? So I think that that's also you're saying I'm vulnerable, and I'm going to step out even further on the ledge of vulnerability, and I'm going to become more vulnerable by letting you know firsthand I don't know how to maneuver through this. I can't imagine walking into the program that I got sober in and saying I don't know how to maneuver through this, and not having the loving hand and attention of people who already had been through it
Mm-hmm.
not helping me. Uh,
Hmm.
but there is that. There is the grace from other people, the prying eyes, and the people that are peering in so voyeuristically into our lives when we put ourselves out there. There is that responsibility of them saying, "Hey, I would love to be able to communicate with you, and I would love to help you grow from this. Let me direct message you, or let me call you, or let me FaceTime you, so that no one has to experience this." I don't feel like anyone learns when they're being humiliated. I don't feel like anyone learns when they're being drugged through the mud and there's 700 comments coming behind every person's tweet about their opinion of what this person has done or what they're going through. Hey, this is an alarming situation. It's something that you should pay attention to. Um, I think that you'll really start to get real true growth and real sincere apologies from people when you approach them directly. Um, that being said, I think the most important thing that you can do if you do have an online presence and you do have a public persona is that you need to be responsible for cleaning up the wreckage of your past. And that includes being constantly aware of what's out there online of you, making sure that if it is offensive to you or to another person, it's offensive, period. And then making and taking the steps necessary to remove it, not because you want it to be removed, you don't want everybody to see it, but hey, I'm removing this. This is offensive to someone, and the last thing I want to do in life is to offend another being.
Hmm.
And
I
I
mean,
think
I
so many
think
people are
there's,
getting caught with their mistakes and being presented with um, uh, their downfalls and their lack of humanity is because they're not responsible in what they put out there. They put it out there and then they don't care if somebody finds it 10 years from now. That's
well,
your responsibility.
it's like, I feel like there's some nuance here because some of the stuff that I post on my Instagram would be offensive, say to a Christian hate group, or you know what I mean? Like I think that there is some level of like I don't know. I see what you're saying about being responsible for taking something down if it's offensive, but I do think that there's got to be some. I don't know. It's kind of. I think it's more complicated than just removing it. Period. Because there are times where like somebody will message me and be like, "Trans boys shouldn't be feminine. Take that picture down," or like, "I'm so disgusted by you," and then I'm like, "Whoa, I'm clearly offending this person, but good." Like so.
Well,
There's that.
but I mean, that being said, though, Ezra, I feel like all of these things coming to light as negative as they are for the person who's doing it, and as hurtful as they are for the people that are hurt by it, it is progressing the communication and the talking about these situations to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
It is serving a purpose that is good. So I'm not saying take it down before it comes to light. I'm just saying, if it's something that you've put out there and you don't agree with it because
Mm-hmm.
you've moved from that standpoint, or you've moved from that position, I feel like it is in your power, and I feel like it's your responsibility to take it down because it is offensive, not because some right-wing conservative religious hate group is trying to attack you, that
Right.
you're offending them. Those aren't the people that you're trying to impress or please. They're also not an organization that you're trying to promote or to see them do well in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
I don't necessarily believe that Trump is a good president. I don't believe that he is responsible or deserving to be called president of the United States of America. But I'm not going to prevent anyone who does believe in him or believe that he's good from believing what they believe. I'm That's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to educate myself on that particular subject and to find a placement and a stance on it, and that's it.
I appreciate how sensible you're approaching all of these um, connected topics, and um, what I'm hearing is that we are all accountable for ourselves, and in a sense, at least for me, it doesn't matter how people hold me accountable. Ultimately, sure, it might be disastrous because I did something out of ignorance, and to me it was seemingly innocent. Now I have a whole mob after me. But still, at the end of the day, I'm accountable for myself and what do I feel about it. But I think there's also, how it feels to be scrutinized. And, Ezra and I, we did a whole podcast about reputation and how in our evolutionary history, people questioning an individual's reputation meant life and death. So I think that's why it can be so hard to navigate these spaces because, at least for me, it's like I want to take two steps forward, but then the thought of, oh no, but what if I get it wrong, just shoves me so much into the taking the step backward. And,
Or never doing it at all because of fear.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And that's the thing. And as a sober person who has done all of my work in sobriety and still continues to do all of my work in sobriety, I know what accountability is. I'm so grateful for the program that I went through because it taught me how to be a more patient, kind, understanding, attentive, passionate, compassionate, um, and I feel well-rounded human being. I wish that was available for all people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Unfortunately, it is one of those things that you only know what you know until you know better.
Right. And I mean, I guess I would say that it is available to everyone, but there's such a stigma around. Well, first of all, not everyone has the problem
Or
of
the desire.
doing drugs and not being able to stop, or drinking and not being able to stop. But that's why I feel so grateful to be an addict, because it allowed me to find the rooms that are helping me grow as a human being, because it stops being about the drugs real quick. Like real quick. When I got to the program, I was like, I just cannot stop doing drugs. And then they were like, okay, but this is why. And let's look at all of your shit and let's bring it up to the surface and let's deal with it and let's make amends. And all this stuff, that it was so quickly not about drugs, which I wish people would understand that more. But also, it's like attraction rather than promotion. I don't promote anything. I'm just gonna live my life and try to keep my side of the street clean as much as possible. And if you want to know why or how, I will tell you. That's
Yeah.
what I try to do.
Yeah. If you're thirsty, I will show you where you can get a drink of water. Um,
You
but that's
thirsty bitch.
that's the thing, though. It's like you can't. You can want all you want. You can wish for the world to be better all you want. You
Mhm.
have to take an active part in being the best that you can be every single day. And that is just a trickle down effect or a chain link effect. It has an effect on the surroundings that you're in and the people that you put around you. And it all starts with you. Um, I just think that the world is sick in so many ways right now. It would be nice to be able to put a little bit of healing back into it. And I think that the internet and being online is a sickness. We can use it as a tool to get better, but we have to start doing, you have to combine computers and a human kind into one thing. So, yes, you can get this intensity and this rush from being on this computer, and people start looking at the computers as this thing that is um, uh, without human nature. I think that you can take responsibility for yourself as a human being that's sitting behind this computer and start putting more human kind back into this computer so that people are actually using this as a tool instead of a weapon.
Wow. Um,
It just needs more heart. It needs more compassion and more kindness and more being direct. Using tools like Instagram and Facebook and all of these dating apps, it's such a broad spectrum. It's a town hall, if you will, of the city that we live in. And you can't just take the entire thing as a whole and say it's bad. It's a tool. I just wish that there was more kindness in the way that we interact with other people online, because if I would have never been given an opportunity to be the best that I could be, I wouldn't be who I am right now. And I'm so grateful for who I've become because of all of the negativity that I've experienced and all of the destructive ways of my past. And like you were saying, Ezra, it first starts out thinking that you're this, and then you get to morph into this being that you have become. And I can say from a personal level, Ezra, I can't imagine you not being able to be given an opportunity to be who you are right now, because you've had such an impact on my life. And I'm so grateful to have you in my life. So I can't imagine you being held to the errors of your past, and being held to this descriptive and this person that you used to be, and never being given freedom to be who you are now, because I can't imagine my life without you.
Yeah, straight up, same. I could say the exact same for you, and I appreciate that.
um, I think when you guys were talking about the amends, and I've been through the process too, I think what's also interesting is that you also get to see what's not your problem. And I think,
100%.
I came up with this slogan last week. It was, I want to hear what you think of it, Six. It's cancel, 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 cancel culture. And like my idea was like, sure, someone does something really wrong and doesn't and wants to still have like people adore them, that person deserves to be criticized to the fullest extent of whatever it is. But then there's usually the reactionary group that tries to find
Mhm,
some dirt on the other side. And
mhm.
then now the other person, the first group, has to retaliate. And then they have to retaliate. And then so for me, it was like when it's gone back and forth more than 4 times, and it's like the fifth cycle of canceling, it's like, okay, we're all fighting way too much. Let's just take a breath and like figure out
Well,
what the
now we
issue is.
yeah, now we've lost sight of what the real problem is.
Yeah, and now people are just now people like once it gets that far into it, then people are like, cancel culture is just canceled. Fuck cancel culture.
Here's another thing too, another insight that I think would be great. Um, I am a Libra through and through. I love to observe. I love to immerse myself into something, and then I like to absorb it, and then I love to process it. And I feel like cancel culture, excuse me, I feel like cancel culture doesn't give you an opportunity to absorb and truly reflect on what it is that's being canceled. I would hate for anyone to not give me, okay, I'll give this example. If you force me to react about a situation when it's on your time, you're going to get something that is not of me.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. It's
I
going to be performative. It's going to be like, "Oh, you want me to
and
see it
react
this way right now. So let me just like tell you I see it this way right now," rather than doing the work to actually genuinely see it that way.
100%. I watch too many crime who done it documentaries, docu-series. I'm not going to specifically name them, but I watch them all the time. And I cannot tell you how many times I have witnessed somebody um, accept the responsibility of a crime that they did not commit because it was reactionary and it was performative. It was, I don't like the way that I feel. I don't like the way that this is being presented to me. I'm just going to tell you whatever you want to hear so that this feeling goes away for now because I don't know how to react to it. And there are people that are sitting in jail for crimes they did not commit because no one gave them the opportunity to reflect on the vast uh, nature of the problem or this particular issue. I just wish we could be more compassionate about allowing people to reflect on what it is that they've done. I mean, I cannot tell you for 3 years, I sat on the streets of LA reflecting on my behavior and my actions and my inactions. It really gave me a lot of momentum to really speak about sobriety and addiction in my community. It gave me license to be vulnerable about my experience. And if I wouldn't have had that, if no one had given me that space to be able to reflect on my part, I wouldn't be who I am.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say that like there's definitely got to be a limit to how much space we give people, depending on what exactly they've done wrong. You know, like if it's something that's like just obviously super fucked up, transphobic, racist, or whatever, and we want people to grow and understand what they did wrong and why it hurts people so bad, and they're like, okay, well, give me some space to reflect, and then years go by and they're like, no, I'm still reflecting. It's like, okay, there's got to be a limit, but I don't know what that limit is, you know, and I can't profess to know because that would you know that would be me saying that I'm all knowing, and that's not the case. But I
Right.
do think that there is a level of, okay, like, time's up, baby, like you're not getting it, and like we can't just keep letting things slide with you promising that you're going to do better next time when it's just nothing's changed, you know.
But I think that that's exactly it. I think that the time is based off of the person who has been offended and
Mm,
who has been offended by it. When I was a kid, when we did something wrong, we got punished. We either got a switch, and your punishment was based off of what you had done. I think, does the punishment fit the crime? I have been punished severely for things that I didn't feel I warranted that kind of punishment. But it wasn't up to me how much punishment I got because I wasn't the one who was offended by what I had done.
Mm.
We used to get, sent to our room, or put your nose in the corner, or, these are the chores that you have to do. And this was the punishment for what you had offended, for the offense that you had caused.
Yeah.
Um, I think that it has to come directly from the person that is offended by what you have done. But I also think that if you're going to punish somebody for something, then you need to be the one directly speaking to the person who has offended you.
Mm.
Because now these people that want to, you've offended me and here's why, and get this army of people to attack the offender is not helping anyone.
Hmm.
Mm.
I agree with you.
Isn't. It's not helping anyone. It is causing people to shut down and to shift gears and to run away and hide. And the last thing here's the worst thing that can happen for someone that has offended you. The worst thing that anyone can do that has offended you. My father offended me his whole life. And I have always thought of my dad peeling the corner, coming around the bend, driving up the driveway. I've always had this fantasy of my dad being able to do that and come to me and say, I am sorry for everything I did and did not do in your life. And then here's what happened. My dad died before that ever came to fruition. And for me, it was the greatest heartbreak to know that my dad would never have an opportunity to make an amends to me because now he's gone. So
Mm.
if you want people to truly have an amends and to truly be sorry and make better their offense, then we need to give them the opportunity in which to do that. But if you want people to just be canceled and you should die and you should this and you should just off yourself or you shouldn't be allowed to make an income or a living, then what we're doing is we're not giving them an opportunity to fully make right their wrongs. And we both lose in that situation. My dad never got a chance to make an amends to me, and I will never hear my dad make an amends to me. And I don't know what's worse. I feel like he got off easy, but
Mm.
uh, that's my humor. It's dark. Um, but I feel like my dad got off easy. And I feel like there is still this longing in that little boy's heart that lives inside of me that really wished I really wish I could hear my dad say that he was sorry, because that's all I ever wanted.
Thank you so much for all the stuff you've been saying, because I think conversations like this are really important. And I'm someone who's like trying to take an objective standpoint, um, as much as I can. And to me, what's kind of funny is that conservatives and the far right look at cancel culture and they just think it's this one crazy communist liberal agenda. Like it's like, it's all rolled into one idea. And then you have liberals that are like center left that say like, oh, cancel culture, they're just nutty progressives that care too much and they're making too big a deal out of things. So they don't even pay attention to it. And then it's the people that actually care about what cancel culture is and what it means is like the people who really do care and who are like in the progressive left. And I just really appreciate everything you said, because I think it's messy and people are trying to figure it out. I'm sure there's listeners that will go, no, I think humiliation's amazing and that it should just be swift and hard every time. And part of me also thinks that's just like our ape brains. We don't know how to use this technology, so when we feel frustrated, we're not face to face with people, it feels like an isolated attack, and so it just, you know it helps people pile on. But anyways, I
We're
will. I said,
we are living in the modern age of the Salem witch trials and King Henry VIII. It is off with your head and it is burn the witch at the stake before really fully giving a person an opportunity to explain themselves, explain their behavior. I don't know if you guys have ever watched like the Salem witch trials and the history behind it. I'm fascinated by it because you could have just worn something one way, or someone could have perceived you being a certain way, and it was held to law. It was the rule. It was the rule of the land. You know, King Henry VIII, if he felt a certain type of way because you looked at him a certain way, or you dressed a certain way, or you didn't do something he wanted, he could kill you.
Yeah,
Um,
and I mean, that is exactly what's. I mean, this kind of was touched on at an earlier episode when we did talk about gossip and reputation. But I think it's really fascinating to think of the evolutionary like history of humanity, and how there was a time when that was so normal. It was so normal to just like kill the person who was like putting our whatever tribe in danger or whatever.
mhm.
And now we have this tool that's so easily like, so it's so easy to let that reaction run wild. And I've definitely been a part of canceling somebody before without really knowing the full story. Granted, I was a lot younger and a lot more volatile and angry about everything. So it was way easier for me to just let that loose, because it felt good to be like, oh my God, we're all rallied around this thing. We all support each other. We're in agreement. I'm a part of something. And it feels purposeful. Like it feels like I have a greater purpose, which when you're searching for a greater purpose and you're young and you're aimless and you're heavily using drugs, it's so much easier to get wrapped up in that whole thing too.
I would like to use all of my downfalls and all of my um, pitiful, demoralizing acts as an opportunity to grow and learn and educate others. It's the reason why I do drag. It's the reason why I am out in my gay community, working in a gay bar as a sober human being. A lot of sober people won't work in nightlife because it's too triggering, or the it's too tempting. And I utilize my past to give me strength to go out into my community and help others who are suffering, so no one ever has to get to the depths that I had to get through. um, so I guess I come from this place of love and acceptance and understanding. Um, I try my hardest not to be an intolerant human being. And I think that so many times in life, we are so easy to be intolerant of something because we don't understand it, because we don't want to understand it, or because it's too exhausting to invest any time in understanding it.
Hmm.
I just wish compassion was more a part of the keyboard.
I
Yeah,
love. Oh, I'm gonna write that down. I
that's
also
really
love put the
good.
kind in humankind.
That's really
I
good.
wish there wasn't I wish there wasn't two command buttons. I wish there was a command button and a compassion button.
You're so cute. God, I love you. Okay, we should probably wrap up.
Where
And
we
we're gonna wrap up some presents.
What?
Come on over, fly on over from Ohio. Or we could do it on Zoom. I love
Please,
you so fucking much. Thank you
I love
so
you.
much for being
It was a
on
pleasure
our
sharing.
show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is, I mean, anytime that I get an opportunity to talk to you, and of course meet a new person, I'm excited about.
Yeah. Well, anytime you want to come back on, we would love to have you. We're gonna do this thing where we have people back on in like a couple months to like check in and see how everyone's doing and
Honey,
stuff.
anytime you and David need or want to associate with me, I am down and ready for it.
So if you want to follow, do you want to plug anything? That's me being social media savvy.
I mean, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter at call her six, and watch We're Here. It's a really incredible docuseries about love and the pursuit of happiness.
Oh, that what a great description. I
Well,
always just say it's a bunch of drag queens going into rural the rural parts of the United States.
But see, then as soon as you say drag queen, it can turn people off and away from it.
I see that.
I just say it's about love and the pursuit of happiness, and people will go, "Well, I didn't know it was about drag queens." Well, did you watch it? I did.
I did, because you said it was about love and the pursuit of happiness. That sounds great.
You know what? I have an aunt. I have an aunt who is a profound Trump supporter, but she's my aunt and she loves me and she loves to take part and watch everything that I do. I know that my lifestyle and my way of life is not something that is attractive or something that she wants to promote or that she's even comfortable with, but she loves me and she loves that show.
Well, there you go. Well, there you have it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
oh,
Um,
we also have this weird promotion with our with our podcast. My Instagram is virtual David Jean, and you could be number 32 of my followers. So
Hold on. You tell me what is it? It's I
God.
think the Instagram handle is gets lost. It's at virtual.
virtual David Jean.
This is the problem, David.
Hmm.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah, I'll send you a follow too.
Oh my God. So every episode now he's doing this, and it's always so uncomfortable.
Honey, if you're followed by Bob the Drag Queen, I want to know why I haven't heard of you sooner.
He's just gonna be this weird guy who's got all these famous people following him
Yeah.
with one creepy
picture.
post.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna
the
tell you, I'm so glad you said that, Ezra, because I was gonna say it, but this picture,
It's terrifying.
it's
It's
mysterious.
terrifying.
It's mysterious. It
Yeah.
literally looks like the picture that you would put up on Netflix, or like making a murderer.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that you said that. Okay. All right, we really have to wrap up. I could literally talk to you for hours.
Yeah.
Same, and I got a show to do, so I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on. Anytime, I would love to be back.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Six. All right, we're back from our little break. That was so nice to have Six on.
Mm-hmm. And they were so well spoken about such a difficult topic.
Yeah, for sure. She has the ability to put thoughts into words so well. That's why I like talking to her so much. I talk to her almost on the daily now because it's so nice to have somebody who has so much wisdom and experience, and still has the humility to be willing to listen to what I have to say and to be vulnerable with me. Like I just love that, I love that, like she said, she's turning 44 and I'm 25, and we can connect on so many levels, despite, such a generational difference,
Yeah, I'm really seeing how supportive, like she really, really is knows how to be supportive.
Yeah.
I think sometimes at least you can throw that word around loosely, like, "Hey, hope you're okay. Oh, thanks for the support."
Mm-hmm.
But I could tell she's considered things very thoroughly.
Yeah.
And very honestly and very considerately.
Very considerately considered things.
Yeah. Oh, did I repeat myself?
No, I mean, you just said.
Yeah.
It was just funny. Yeah, definitely. I like to touch on this one experience that I was reminded of when we were talking. When I got canceled, or I would consider what happened with my ex-girlfriend to, I mean, I do consider myself having been canceled or attempted canceled, at least, by my ex. And when that happened, I didn't know how to respond, so I didn't respond to any of it, and I just kind of sat with it and felt uncomfortable and felt terrified and received messages and just kind of like did what I could to keep my serenity and to keep my composure despite feeling like I was gonna die. Quite frankly, in a uh, you know what a primitive sort of sense of like I felt like in the back of my brain like I was gonna die.
Yeah, your cognitive faculties weren't there, and your emotions and body was just saying threat primordially.
Exactly that, whatever you just said. But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't have been able to say that, but I understood when you said it. That's what matters. So, despite all of that, like, all of that fear and anxiety, whatever, I just didn't take any actions whatsoever because I was just not ready to, and I gave myself the space to do it, instead of expecting any space from anyone else. I was just like, okay, like I have the choice here. Like I can either respond before I'm ready or just take the space despite them saying you should be responding now, or what, you know what I mean? Like, why aren't you taking accountability? Or, I was just like, well, I'm certainly not equipped mentally, emotionally to handle this right now. So I'm just not going to do anything with it yet, even though there was a lot of pressure to do something with it,
There was also a lot of pressure in admitting to something you don't believe to be true.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and that's why like it didn't feel like I could respond quite like right away. I think that if it was something that I actually witnessed with my eyes and in my experience, I think it would have maybe been different. But because of that added layer of confusion, it was just like, oh wow, like I really don't know how to handle this. So I took space and then eventually addressed it in a video. And then because I addressed it in the video, somebody else reached out to me and said that they were going through something similar. Another trans masculine person was going through something similar with their ex, and they wanted my advice. And so I FaceTimed them, and I was like, hey, like, what do what's going on? And they explained the situation, and I was like, okay, like I listened thoroughly, and I said, okay, this is what I would do, or this is what I did. But they were so caught up in their feelings and their fear and their anxiety that they weren't actually looking for advice. They were just looking for someone to validate their fear and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was like, okay, I'm going to take the time to share my experience with you because you're clearly asking for it. You reached out, and then to be met with, no, that's not going to work because this person, blah, blah, blah. And like all this stuff, they were so wrapped up in how they were being perceived. They couldn't let go of that to actually give themselves enough space to process anything. So then it was just like, I was just met with defense, and I was like, oh, honey, you're in for it. If this is how you're handling this right now, like, I wish I could have helped, but there was nothing that I could have said.
Yeah.
The
panics I have nowadays, they're few and far in between, but a lot of the times it's just like, this person's thinking this way, and I know I can't change their mind, and they're fucking me over, man. They're fucking me over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my girlfriend will be like, okay, calm down. The world, isn't this hostile? And it's like, no. Can I say something really embarrassing and funny?
Yeah.
Have you ever watched The Office?
Yeah.
I've just started watching The Office. And
is that the embarrassing thing?
No.
Okay.
No, it's coming. And when I watched the first or second episode where Dwight got paranoid about who was getting let go or downsizing, I saw myself. And now when I've gone pissed off at situations, I've told myself, do you want to be Dwight? And I go, no, you're being Dwight right now. And I go, God damn it. The parking here is horrible. No one gives a shit about it. I go, well, you're being Dwight right now. Anyways.
That's funny.
So the person was defensive.
Yeah. They were being Dwight. They were being Dwight. I couldn't handle it. And then I was just like, okay, well, good luck. Like, I was just trying to be compassionate. I know the feeling of the anxiety and the fear, but I also know just wanting someone to co-sign my anxiety rather than helping me through it. And if you're not ready to be helped through it, then you're not ready, but I'm not going to co-sign someone's anxiety too. I just don't want to. Even if I do understand it and I have compassion for it, I can do that. But I'm not going to be like, oh my God, you're right. You should be anxious because your life is over. Like, I'm not going to do that with somebody. Plus, that wasn't my experience. So I can't say that,
Mm-hmm.
My experience was that because I took space and I was able to really unpack what happened for me with this relationship, I was able to come at it from a place of clarity and not anxiety and defensiveness, but rather just like, okay, this is just what happened for me. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
End of story. That's the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I mean, I don't know. I feel at peace with the situation now. And at one point I really didn't. So there's that too, there is coming back from these things, but I think it really depends on what you're willing to look at within yourself too.
Oh, okay. Tell me more about that.
Well, just like it takes a lot of patience with yourself to fight the urge to be reactionary when you're being called out or called in for a conversation or whatever. And it, to fight that urge to be defensive and to, fight those instincts to be defensive and say, like, to protect your life or whatever, protect your reputation. But it's worth it, I think.
Yeah, I've experienced that very recently. What I will say is that there's a book coming out on September 1st called It's All About Threats. And I read a little bit of the preview available on like Google, we can read the first like 10 pages or something. And he mentioned that threats is a deterrent. So like, I'll punish you if you try to do that thing again. He said is the most ineffective threat compared to like animals threatening each other if you're going to fight each other, or even social threats where it's just like, look, if you post that thing, I'm going to call you out. But the idea, it's like, if and once I call you out, then we're going to ruin your life. Like he was saying, that just never works. And I kind of reflected on how my whole upbringing was based on ideas like that. So I was I've had this really weird experience where I've thought of like, I respond to a lot of threats and defensiveness that isn't there. It's just not there. And I've been conditioned to think that takes a certain kind of strong character ethic. Some of it's based on a religious upbringing. Some of it's what I took from that, put those standards on myself. Yeah, I don't have much to say on it right now, but to me, the idea that I don't have to be defensive all the time is novel. It's just like, what?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think for a lot of people, that's the case.
Yeah. I probably would have never known. I think this is why, for me, I find books so helpful because I look at them as like basically I'm finding different teachers
Mhm.
because the teachers I have in my life, I kind of know how they're looking at things, and and they're human, so they're gonna be fallible and they're gonna think a way that I don't like. Um, so that's why I go get a book on the subject and then find a way to think about it the way that I like and the way I assume a person likes it the same way. And so for me, just kind of that line just hit me so hard. It's like, oh, this form of warnings or threats like just doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, we could do a whole episode on that.
Yeah, I'll probably be done with the book in a couple weeks.
Sweet. All right. Well, I think we should maybe wrap up. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a good, juicy podcast.
I like my podcasts filled with juice. So, if you want to reach out to us at all, you can reach out to our email at internetinsanitypod@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Instagram at internetinsanitypod. And if you have the capacity to rate anything about our podcast, you can do so. And it would help us, probably, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So go ahead. And if you want to share this, do that. We've never asked anyone to share this, have we?
I don't know. Yeah, I did once.
Oh, you did? Okay. Well, do it. I mean, if you feel called to.
That doesn't mean you can't share it again.
Yeah.
Or that
it's... Go for it. Just be yourself.
Yeah.
If you feel inclined to, then go for it.
If you feel joy, then translate that joy into sharing
our
podcast and rating it, and let the cycle of joy grow.
That feels manipulative.
I meant that so sincerely.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay, well, tune in next week, and we love you. Probably, I do. I love you.
Oh yeah,
I really do. I appreciate the listens.
Totally. I want anyone who's listening to contact us. I mean, they don't have to. They might be shy. But there's a part of me that's like, you've heard us. Let's hear you.
I get that.
Yeah.
Too. I want to know who you are. Okay, DM us. Comment on our things. Goodbye.